So, my favorite section, what are the risks?
The risks are many, and I want to make this very, very clear. Emerging markets is tricky. There's a lot of things, and currency risk is probably the biggest one. Currency risk follows a pattern that is unpredictable, number one, and has nothing necessarily to do with the health of the business. So the business could be really healthy,
Right.
right?
But
The embedded
same,
finance business, the core on the ground business could be very healthy, but because of foreign exchange volatility, it creates shortfalls and so on. Theoretically and in reality, over time, it levels itself out, but you could be caught out last minute. So that's one of the biggest risks.
okay.
What we try to do in our model is again that diversification, which is what's so key is diversify, again, using technology to aggregate these embedded finance lenders across geographies and across currencies, so that you're not overly exposed to overly exposed to any one country, currency, or sector. And that way, you're just a tiny bit more protected than the usual situation.
Okay, so
That's
let
the
me
biggest
understand
risk,
this.
though.
Let me understand this. You guys are mainly exchanging, I would assume US dollars to, sorry, excuse my like excuse my ignorance in this whole African
Yeah,
space. Like, and I'm assuming you guys are exchanging mostly US currencies to like bunch of different African currencies.
local currencies. Because by the
Local.
end of the day, these businesses and what drives their revenues um, is local currency.
Yeah.
So, I mean, people are like, well, why don't you just lend in US dollars, Jim? It's like, just think about that for a second. If the local value generation is local currency and you do it in dollars, well, all you do is just setting unrealistic expectations for the local entrepreneur. So it doesn't help you. It doesn't necessarily help you. And so what you need to do is figure out a real way to mitigate the forex volatility that comes from this type of lending, i.e., you know, money coming in, source money coming in from U.S. dollars, and they going out in local currency. Now, of course, the ideal is that you get source capital in local currency and do that. And over time, we don't do this today, sadly, just because of regulatory issue. You can't launch an offering in every single currency legally. Um, we have to. A lot of the money comes from the outside, so you do have to deal with currency forex at the end of the
Okay.
day.
Okay. Now, what's and then you mentioned diversification. Like, what's the typical amount or range of amount that you lend to one particular company?
Yeah, so our target, oh yeah, this is a little bit of how we do it.
Yeah.
Our range is ideally companies that can absorb anywhere from 1 to 3 to 5 million a year in capital. So when I talk about companies, I mean the embedded finance company, and they might be serving anywhere from a few thousand to tens of thousands of customers each. So that's
Mm.
what we like. But we usually start off with a due diligence step that is very unusual. We'll actually disperse capital to force data integration. So we
Fascinating.
might actually do a small 50K check and say we have to data integrate now,
Oh, okay.
right? And people say, oh yeah, but you're investing. Well, yeah, sure, but it's really a due diligence. We're paying people for due diligence,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
right? We're investing in people for due diligence purposes.
yeah, yeah.
So
You're buying their data.
um,
You're
exactly,
buying access
exactly.
to their
So
data.
exactly. So we have this pilot phase step is really still part of our due diligence process. And then only after, and this is the criteria, right? Only after we verified, these are the real unit economics, not the ones in the Excel spreadsheet you sent me last week, but these are the real unit economics.
Yeah, yeah,
This is how efficiently you can deploy the capital. We gave you a 50K. How long did it take you to deploy the 50K? Now, if you
right.
deploy it in 1 week, it's good. If it takes you 3 months, well, you're not going to scale. You're not going to reach the $1 to $3 million target we need. Maybe we keep working with you until you can scale. And
Yeah,
then you also find out things that you just don't know you didn't know, right? Including, how good really is their data, how insightful really is their data. How good is the company? Can we trust this team? All the things that you want to know in any due diligence process, you find out after you give them the money. It's not, I guess, not a surprise to say it, but only you really only know after you give somebody money how they're going to behave.
You know what? This is exactly, I totally get it. This is exactly how we test out new passive income streams. Like for example, take litigation financing, not litigation financing, any other stuff we do. We always, I personally always for the stuff that meet my criteria, I always invest just a little bit upfront because what's in the offer memorandum could be very different from the actual results. So, so I actually put a little bit of money in, start seeing how it works. And throughout this whole process, you would know if the people will ghost you or not after taking your money. And if they're MIA, or if they will actually still give you a proper response, every single time you have a question, you can find those people. And if they actually do deliver based on the contract, like 12 months, however percentage return if they did. So I start really small and I keep adding more to the ones that, you know, actually delivered based on what they said. And the results were good. So as time goes by, I put more money in there. And as time goes by, many ones I cut off because, it just turned out they're not who they say they
Not
are.
working. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I totally understand that process. Start small, let time figure out the winners and yeah, yeah, okay. Completely understand that.
Yeah, no, so exactly right. And here's the thing though, right? Little signals like do they pay or not? Those are the weakest signals.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I think our goal with the data integration and kind of the data-driven automated monitoring is to get live signals, signals that are more accurate about the performance or their ability to pay.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you can see the data behind it. So you can even predict whether they're gonna pay on time or not, whether they're gonna be running trouble in the future, right? So
Yeah, no, exactly. And so that's the whole point of data, right? It's to be able to probably using probability, sorry, probably to using probability, somewhat predict the future. I mean, you can never
right.
truly predict the future, but with probability and data, you can get a better sense of what will likely happen, just in the same way that Google predicts what you're going to type in the search bar.
Exactly. Like we did a lot of private lending before, in the private credit market. And honestly, after doing it so many times, you just know who's gonna pay, who's gonna renew, and who's not gonna pay, and who will keep renewing until they can afford it. You just know this kind of stuff, right? So, but instead of intuition, instead of like, right, you essentially standardize and quantify into model, into
Yes.
algorithm. So it spits out that for you. So yeah, entirely possible. What about, are you not worried about, I guess, the company take the money and run, or the company's like, um, they take, couple million and they go bankrupt? Like, are
I
these
mean, that's where there's that iterative process. So again, that's why you start off with the 50K check. And let's be honest, right? A lot of those 50K check due diligence process investments, that's exactly what happened.
yeah.
Right? They went right, but because it's a small amount, you can manage it.
Right.
But you don't want a $2 or $3 million partner to suddenly go. Right. So you need to have that track record and that due diligence with them first. And so we try to communicate that that initial check is really not our investment.
Mhm.
It is the due diligence that we need to get you on the platform so that you can show that you can deliver 2, 3 million worth
Yeah.
of deal flow.
Yeah. Um, so is it fair to say that you're not jumping from 50K to like a few million? You're actually doing 50K and then maybe a bit more and then maybe a bit more, and then eventually we'll get to that few million range.
That's correct. So even if we do, let's say 3 million, we'll never do a $3 million check. We will
Right.
say, okay, we're ready to do 3 million with you now. We're gonna or 3.6 million with you now. We're going to deploy 300K to every month for 12 months.
Yeah, exactly. And you can
And
see that.
then
Mhm.
we can see it, and because we've automated the signals or the feedback loop, right now we can actually make trigger criteria, trigger decisions based on the metrics that we collect in an automated way. So now we can say, well, as long as your capital efficiency, how long does it take you to deploy the capital and turn it into revenue, not just deploy it, turn it in revenue, that has to be 30 days or less, or 95% of it needs to be deployed within 30 days, or else we stop, or we
Mhm.
pause, or we curtail.
Mm.
Um, and and other things like that. So that's how we incrementally do things.
But wouldn't that put pressure? Like I know deploy of capital is an indicator, but wouldn't that put pressure into those companies to lend out, even though they may have to relax around the writing criteria a little bit?
Yeah, well, this is why we have this kind of back and forth, right? So we monitor these metrics and we just make sure that they're still there. And some of these trigger metrics is like, well, your default rate just went up significantly. And
Ah,
now that's gone past 12, we have to curtail. Now, people ask the next question, but can you take back the money? No, we can't. You can't. But you can at least say, hey, we're not going to give you any more,
yeah,
right?
yeah. Um, so if that's the case, like, could they fake the data?
They
Default rate?
could. Anything's fakeable. Anything's fakeable. But a couple of things. One is that kind of operational data is much harder to fake,
Mm,
especially because there's data integration. You're gonna have to get pretty sophisticated to get your systems to fake data that is not obviously fake. But also, we're keep in mind we're seeing all their digital revenue collections as well. So if all of a sudden, at the end of the day, the money is what matters,
mm.
right? So if there's a sudden disconnect between your performance data and how much you're receiving, you're
Mm.
going to go, wait, hold on,
Yeah.
there's something wrong here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Especially, I'm assuming your loan cycle would be like their loan cycle would be short, right? You would be like what, like a month, 6 months, like
Yeah, so I mean, there's some partners that have 30-day loan cycles, some with 3-month loan cycles. Yeah.
so you will figure that out very quickly. Because the other one I interviewed, their loan cycle is like 12 to 15 days. So you can like,
Yes.
right? Like, because in that landscape, it's really like super liquid. Like it's highly liquid. The loan cycle is super short. So you can figure out something wrong very quickly and stop the bleeding if needed. Okay.